Hello, everyone. Welcome to Growing Web3. I'm extremely excited to have with me today 0xJustice. I actually discovered him when kind of going down like a rabbit hole and trying to think about how DAOs could actually operate better or more effectively. And I found like a absolutely incredible article he wrote called Rethinking the DAO Contributor Funnel. So yeah, you describe yourself as a DAO operator. Maybe you could tell everyone a little bit more about what that means.
Thanks, James. Thanks for inviting me on the show. Love talking about this stuff. I use the word DAO operator because it sounds cool. I think in terms of like there's SWAT teams or there's a certain level of special operator, like it's a Delta Force, and
Hmm.
the lines connected when I read an article. I think it was, I'm not sure if it was from Peter Pan, but it was one of these DAO thought leaders where he talked about the summoner. The DAO summoner is the ultimate
Hmm.
destination, and the idea is like like a Delta Force. You could be dropped in the jungle with no army, no backing, and then a year or two later you've created your own army and done this thing. And effectively that's what these operators, like businesses, want to transition, take advantage of the whole DAO construct. They need someone
Hmm.
who knows it, that they can drop in, and then these things come together. And so that's why I took the operator. As far as like my day-to-day operations, I'm a governance solution engineer in BanklessDAO.
Hmm.
I get so spread out. I got to put this on a card these days, right? Um, a summoner for Particle DAO. It's a museum
Hmm.
DAO that purchased Banksy's Love is in the Air. Polygon DAO grants committee. Ethereum Adoption DAO co-founder. That's a project at Polygon, and then WGMI. It's a service DAO out of Metacartel Ventures that's doing community management as a service. So between being overextended by 1,000 on all that stuff, that's kind of what I do.
That's amazing. That's amazing. So I love that. I love that concept of DAO summoner. I think I think the first time I came across it was like 2018 or 19 when Amin from Moloch DAO was talking about it, and I think then Peter from Peter Pan created Metacartel DAO with him. But yeah, it's always been yeah the highest honor to be the DAO summoner.
Oh yeah,
So cool.
and I'll say I'm working on a like a skill tree progression path, and the
Hmm.
idea is you start as a contributor. How do you
Hmm.
contribute in a DAO? That's a unique set of knowledge and resource and all. You move to coordinator, so you know how
Hmm.
to coordinate many individuals. Then you go to an architect. Like many people are trying to do DAO operations with architecture, it's destined to be a flaming fire hellscape, right? And
Hmm.
then from there, like once you've designed the game, you need people to show up and play it. That's where you get into the summoner, and that introduces lore and all the common enemy, the Moloch, the God coordination failure. All these factors come into play, so it's pretty neat.
Awesome. Love that. So yeah, I'm like super obsessed with this article you wrote because it was like all the things I've been thinking about. Like in marketing and growth, you have like funnels, right? Everyone's talking about funnels, sales funnel this, sales funnel that. And I was like, okay, what do like DAO funnels look like? Um, from user all the way through to like a core team member. And then I was like playing around with different ideas, um, and researching different DAOs. And then I read your article and I was like, damn, he's like written exactly what I've been trying to think about, but in a way better way and way more clearly. Um, so maybe we can just kind of like, I think everyone who's listening should firstly get up that article. It's called Rethinking the DAO Contributor Funnel, and have a look at the diagram that essentially has like the different levels. Um, and yeah, maybe we can just go through them. We can talk about like, so the kind of the entry tier to a DAO is the users, right?
This is one. There's a I think there's an insight here that a lot of people are missing, and they think that
Hmm.
the DAOs are like a reinvention of space time and not a natural evolution and continuity of what has come before. The
Hmm.
whole idea of, at least many of the factors, is they're actually built on previous movements. And I
Hmm.
think the DAO evolution is built on an obsession with the user and the
Hmm.
idea of no space between the business and the user and providing them what they want, right? And what it's done is it's DAOs are making it have come so close now that it's like, dude, we are the users. We've turned our users into the community, the driving force of this thing, right? So it starts
Yeah.
with users. That's the public.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's like the public, yeah, I guess community layer or yeah, user. Would you, and this can be like, I guess someone who's just joined the Discord or is using the product and then they've entered in and joined the Discord.
I would say this. I'd make a distinction between the community and the users because
Yeah,
look at it this way, right? I use Apple products. Am I part of the Apple
yeah,
community? Absolutely not, right?
yeah.
And so if we were to mirror this to Discord, because a lot of people use it, I have let's say Apple has a canonical Discord server and I have a
Hmm.
problem. I don't understand why I'm not able to select text and iMessages properly or something. I could go there. The first level is there's a public support for users. I come in and these people need to be happy. They maybe they're even the holders of the stock. Okay.
Hmm.
And this is another distinction we don't make so much. Like I hold the Uni token. Am I a part of the Uniswap community? Absolutely not. Am I part of the DAO? No way. But I hold it. I have an interest, right? And the idea is like make your users happy. A
Hmm.
segment of those users will want to go deeper. They will actually
Hmm.
want to have a voice in the future development of those products. They'll want to be in that inner circle. And then that introduces the first gate.
Okay. And so the first gate is moving from users through to community.
Yep.
And then what's happening at the community level? So they'll have like a shared tool like Discord.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll imagine that this entire funnel exists on Discord, but at every
Hmm.
level, what we're doing is we're saying, um, you have showed a greater interest to go deeper. So we're going to ask something from you and we're going to give you something in exchange. And we're going to
Hmm.
unlock a greater access. At
Hmm.
this point, DAOs are many of them, can't say all, but many of them are totally messed up. One is there's no product, so they don't have users. And two,
Hmm.
if they do have a product and they have energized people, they're not distinguishing people who have casually entered the server and those who actually want to have some commitment or access to a community. And here's the reason why you need this gate and it to cost something to enter, right? Is because running a community is not free.
Hmm.
And in every level of the contributor funnel, there should be a return on investment. There has to be a return on investment because that money is used to refine and perfect the experience of people on that level. And
Hmm.
so this idea of like, I want to join a community, I'm purchasing a passport. Maybe it's a season pass or whatever. What's the advantages of this? Basically, it's the fan club. I'm getting the next level experience. And some people, one group, Block Zero, they have an explorers. Do you want to be an
Hmm.
explorer? Here's the onboarding. At the end of the first month, you sit in on all our meetings. Quietly you observe, and then you can do a presentation on like what could be an improvement proposal or something. Like these are your fan club explorers type still.
Awesome. Awesome. So yeah, I guess the key thing there is you need to contribute something to
Dude,
become a community member. And then when you've become a community member, it's all about more contribution, and then you're moving through the layers.
yes, yes. And this there's a broken relationship. It can't be all upside and no downside. Because here's the
Hmm.
thing, you invest in a, a good experience at every level of the funnel. That
Hmm.
investment costs money. It's also a service to your participants at that level of the funnel for them to have something to lose if they don't come
Hmm.
through on their investment. Um,
Hmm.
in the simplest way at the explorer, at the community level, maybe the investment is like, hey, there's some money up front, and you get paid in these, you are eligible to pick up bounties. These
Yeah.
bounties have a payment, and so you do have a downside because you didn't pay $100 for this season pass or whatever it is.
Hmm.
Just sit around on your hands and dork around. You paid. Now you have a vested interest. Maybe you have a much greater upside, but there needs to be both, frankly, as a service to the participants, as well as for the sustainability of the program that is
Yeah,
providing this,
absolutely. I love that. So yeah, I think a lot of people in the space think like DAOs should be completely open and completely free. And I agree with that to an extent. I think all communities should be completely open and completely free. I kind of agree with it to a very small extent, actually. And I'm very much with you that I think people should show some kind of commitment or contribution or investment, because then that will like help them engage more. So I quite liked, um, so like Proof was an NFT community of like big NFT holders. The Proof Pass, it didn't start off expensive, but it became extremely expensive.
Don't
Um,
rub it
you
in,
know,
man. I was told about
yeah,
it and missed it, so careful, dude. I'm still feeling the pain over here.
but people who bought that pass were like extremely invested in the success of that community. Um, and yeah, it was like founded or summoned by a big influencer. So, there was a lot of hype around it, but I think it really meant that everyone's aligned from day one, right? Everyone's like, okay, we're here for a reason. Let's do this. Same with like, yeah, Bored Apes and all that stuff. Um, so yeah, I mean, I quite like the membership pass idea.
Hmm.
I really like the season pass idea.
Yep.
And then that brings you into like, it gives you the opportunity to, yeah, collect bounties, um, work on some like small projects. And then after that, like say you become a contributor, then you're moving to the next stage, right?
Now, here's one thing. Even during the times of turn down, there's one DAO that like kills it.
Hmm.
It's Nouns DAO. Nouns DAO's
Yeah.
killing it, and so like for so many DAOs, and I'm telling you, most you mention a season pass or any type of recurring costs, and people are like losing their minds, like you're robbing their house. Okay,
Hmm.
but we should be drawing from the insight of a auction
Hmm.
kind of pass system. Um, think about too, as the value of the network grows, you need to maintain a scalability using like a Dunbar's number, like
Hmm.
optimum size. Okay, you can do that through an auction mechanism, and so
Hmm.
there's something to be drawn there, right? And
Yeah, I
so
love that.
so this takes us to the next stage. Another mistake DAOs make is they're like, oh, we're gonna bounty the whole world. And
Hmm.
this is it kind of makes sense naively. You say, oh, here's what we can do. We want to do this thing. We're going to build a spaceship. Instead of paying 10 people $1 million to do it, we'll break out everything that needs to happen in these bounties, and we'll give everyone like $10 in governance token. It's not even $10, just like governance token. By
Yeah.
the end, we'll have a spaceship. We'll have had to pay nothing except internet magic money, and it's going to be incredible. No wonder this thing is awesome. Let's do it. It's so naively wrong because it's impossible. Like the overhead to decompose complex work into small pieces is
Hmm.
more than one skilled individual doing it, and you don't have the upside and downside built into it, and you lose a continuity of delivery. And now that's not to say that bounties are worthless. That's another extreme. Bounties are amazing because what they do is they vet talent.
Hmm.
You don't need to talk to someone for an hour and try to be a mystic and guess whether they're invested,
Hmm.
capable, responsible, right? You can look at a bounty history. So a person has come in, they've moved from just a customer to a community member. They really want to be involved, make an impact. They've entered the Explorer program. They're eligible to pick up bounties. The bounties they pick up, they kill it. They see it
Hmm.
from end to end. They don't do the bare minimum to like get the bounty. They're invested. Okay. Now this person has they've gone through the vetted process. they can apply at the governance level as a contributor. Now think
Hmm.
about it. There's a difference now that's happened between someone who picked up one or two bounties to someone like, listen, it's almost like they're entering into a retainer type of talent pool. This
Hmm.
person has talent, they're eligible to be on a team, they're full blown contributor status. And I would argue, this is highly controversial, that this actually constitutes the circle in your DAO of governance. Having a bunch of randos try to decide on the critical issues of the operation, your operations, is busted.
Hmm.
One, they're
Hmm.
not engaged, they're not informed. You need a governance circle that says strategically, this is the right thing. And what you can do is, if you're using a governance token which collapses both a currency and a kind of a governance ability, what you can do is you can still have that token, but you can modify it by this gate. So let's say this
Hmm.
gate is some special badge. You can say you need this badge to vote, and then you have a weighted voting with our governance token on it. So you don't need to
Hmm.
abrogate what you have, but you can modify it. And effectively, it's a similar version of a delegated governance, So
Awesome. Super cool. Super cool. So when you get through that gate, you become pretty much like a core, or not a core team member, but you come like a team member with voting rights,
well, you're a
right?
part of the DAO. You're part of
You're
the
a part of
DAO.
that.
You have the rights. Um, um, yeah, yeah, and
Cool.
there's this is what makes you eligible now to basically be a core person on a team. And
Hmm.
I'm distinguishing team from contributor because the way teams operate is so important. It can't just be lost on like, oh, I'm a contributor, I'm here, like I have
Hmm.
governance rights and all this. Like, I believe that there's kind of a different version of bounties that's applicable at the team level. That's
Yeah.
not like, oh, we did this little ticky tacky thing, but like we have a certain monetary unlocks for 2.0 went out. And if the
Hmm.
team like fizzles out or whatever, they don't just like not get the unlock, but they have like some stake assets that they can lose as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's really interesting. Yeah, the team should be fully invested. And I mean, I think a lot of DAOs, like they considered like the team really like core contributors, and they often, give them like full-time packages essentially. Um, and I think that like helps align people, because I think, yeah, I see like contributors more as like, yeah, freelancers, gig workers, picking up different tasks, helping out, doing bounties, but they might not have like a recurring income, and it might
Hmm.
not be their main thing. Whereas I
Yeah,
see
and
team,
mhm.
often the team might be, working across a few DAOs, but it's usually much more structured. At least, they know that they're
Yep.
contributing on like a regular basis.
Yeah, and that's it. There's a it's just, almost all my writing is a result of pain. It's not like, oh, I have this idea. It's like, listen, I've been so pissed about
Hmm.
seeing this broken BS for so long that I cannot help but write it. And there's a little bit of
Hmm.
acid in my expression of it. And so it was pain that produced these thoughts, right? Um,
Okay.
yeah, yeah. And so it, one way to think about this too is as a funnel should be, it's a true kind of nested circles getting closer and
Hmm.
closer. And so it's not as though, oh, I'm a contributor over here or I'm on a team. Like a contributor kind of constitutes every person
Hmm.
in the whole like everyone on a team, everyone who's capable of being on a team. But I remember I was going to say this idea too that like everyone can just be like part time all over the place. We're producing crap. You know what I mean? It's not the way. There needs to be a commensurate upside and downside, and sufficient to completely capture a person's attention space so that what can be produced is orders of magnitude better than even what could be produced in the Web 2 space. Why? Because it is unpermissioned in the sense that it's the best people in the world, regardless of laws, HR, finances. This is the unlock. Not having randos show up to your team meetings, having that joined the DAO yesterday that have ideas on how things should happen. That is not the way. That's busted.
I agree. I agree. It's intense. Like I love that some DAOs and a lot of the community want to be super open, but there's like openness with structure, and I think that's what's missing in a lot of like, a lot of new projects start. They're like, woohoo, we got like 50,000 people in Discord. Then they're like, everyone come to the first DAO call, and then it's like a mess, and you have people with like, who are spending all day working on this protocol or product, and then you have someone who's just turned up with some wild idea. Everyone's like, let's do the wild idea, and they're like, yo, that's not gonna work.
Yeah.
And they kind of get equal footing, and I think like that's also something that I found quite difficult, like participating in DAOs, is that some people have like maybe a superiority complex on some things, like they think they know best. That's fine, but when they don't necessarily have like the contribution to back it up, and some people who are contributing a lot, maybe they're just not the loudest voice in the room. They won't like, have their voice heard because they just want to, build and go along with it. And so you see this weird dynamic form where, someone who's just more loud and aggressive and there is kind of getting their ideas pushed through, and others who are maybe, more introverted don't see that. Whereas if you looked at like, if you base things on who's contributing the most, you'd always go with the person who's maybe more introverted but building more. So yeah, I think that's definitely something to fix. And I mean, as you said, with your like levels, you definitely fix that, because the team is only comprised, or like decision makers are only comprised of people that have contributed a lot. And so yeah, that's how I really like how you separate out these levels, and the gates are so important.
Yeah. The thing is DAOs can and should be permissionless, right? But what does that mean? To me, that means that they can operate in a way that's indifferent to location in the world, who you are, what's illegal, whether you even have a legal identity. But no one endorses or can for long an unmitigated, unqualified permissionlessness. Hence, the contributor funnel is the distinction between pure chaos and a completely closed system where you need a certificate from the state, and this is how much you have to, and you have to live here and live in that. It's like the contributor funnel is the solution between those two extremes. But me just showing up in Kevin Owaki's meeting today with some new ideas, that doesn't work.
It doesn't work. It doesn't work. And I'm glad that's more people being more vocal now about that, because I think during like the bull market, we had crazy times where a lot of stuff just worked, and a lot of crazy ideas and huge communities kind of worked because the market was great and number was going up, and vibes paid the bills. But now we're in this time where the market is pretty harsh. Treasuries aren't as big as they used to be. There's not as much excess capital. So DAOs are really starting to think, like DAO operators like yourself, I'm sure, starting to think about how do we make things more efficient, and how do we pay the bills? And vibes aren't paying the bills. We need to go back to really providing value to the users, building out these core services that bring revenue, or whatever else the DAO's doing. So yeah, I think that's really something that's shifted the last, say, 6 months. And so I think, yeah, it's even more important now than ever. Because I mean, you wrote this in February, this article, and it was still pretty good times, right? Like ETH was pretty high. But now is when I feel it's really needed that everyone needs to really focus on this. So yeah, and I remember, so I actually interviewed Peter Pan for this show.
Oh wow.
Maybe around 6 months ago. maybe that's maybe like 3 months ago. I don't
Dude,
know.
I'm
Time
super
is.
honored to be on this show now, man.
Um, and yeah, he, his like the main takeaway for me, at least from that episode, was he said like DAOs are like they're pushing a product or service. They're this operational model.
Hmm.
Um, and I think that's something we kind of forgot about in the bull market.
Hmm.
Like there was some really awesome special purpose DAOs,
Yep.
but now we have yeah, like they're managing billion-dollar protocols, and we're getting to a point where that needs to be done more efficiently.
Yep.
And so yeah, frameworks like yours are super awesome for that.
Yeah, a few things to call out is like there's an allergy to anything that looks familiar. People are like, whoa, this kind of looks like a organization. And it's like, yeah, we didn't like build what we have for thousands of years across like billions of people by accident. There's actual like reasons for the way it works. And if there's a reflex that if anything looks familiar, we can't have that, it's totally misguided and untenable, unsustainable. Like, oh, well,
Hmm.
we're doing it different. The car has 5 wheels. And it's like, that's dumb, right? The, the term DAO is so associated with a certain kind of philosophical or like what I actually am more attracted to the programmable organizations.
Hmm.
That idea gets my kind of brain tingling a little bit more. You can't use it so much because people don't know what you're talking about, but
Hmm.
it's indifferent to, oh, well, big tech is evil and we're doing something different or whatever. I'm like, I don't know. If you don't like Facebook, don't use it. They're not like forcing you, you know? I mean, like, they provide like a really valuable connection point and then sell ads and whatever. If you don't, just don't use it. Okay. So the programmable organizations I like, and then the other thing too, people were like, well, this feels like work. I don't want work. I'm not want DAOs for work or whatever. I'm like, if a person has this deep resentment towards any productive activity called work and they're like, don't want to do it, that's a personal issue they have to work through. Me personally, I freaking love my work. My work is fun, or else I wouldn't be
Yeah.
doing it. I would do something else. And so anything that's like, hey, here's when we meet, here's when we talk through the issues, here's what we're trying to produce, it's a positive impact on the world, it's also financially sustainable, I freaking jam on that stuff. I love doing that. And then lastly, you mentioned you were like, hey, you need to get by on more than vibes. I would add one caveat on that. Unless the vibes are the product, in which case there's work that goes into ensuring those vibes sustain. Back
Yeah.
again, we're back to a business model. How do we facilitate that? What are the right people? What's the right context and the patterns? And maybe that's one aspect of the product, right? So
Love that. Love that. Um, so I think I'm gonna label you as like a DAO realist. Is
thank
that
you.
cool?
Thank you, my friend. I appreciate that.
Because yeah, I love how candid you are um, about the way things operate. And I mean, yeah, you operate in a lot of DAOs, so you really are at like the front lines of understanding how these things work and all the things that don't work. So I want to ask you like a few quick fire questions.
Hmm.
Um, so if you were getting started today, what DAO would you join? You get to go straight to team level. You get to like jump in straight at the team level.
Oh, well, that's a very different detail at the end. I would say this. Um, Shapeshift, shout out Willie Fox. Um, Shapeshift it went from a standard company to DAO transition, and they're actually
Hmm.
further along than many DAOs because they started from there's a true progressive decentralization pattern.
Hmm.
They're hitting on all cylinders, man. They are deep, they're connected, they're doing cool stuff. I freaking love Shapeshift. But here's the thing. Do you want to go somewhere where they don't have that much problems? Because there's less upside. Think about it. If you want to go to a place that's an utter shite show, there's greater upside because if you can solve some problems, then there's opportunity to build a reputation and do some stuff.
Hmm.
If you want to go to a place where there's like big issues to solve and opportunity to solve them, BanklessDAO.
BanklessDAO. Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, I know Bankless has crazy opportunities because
Oh
of
yeah.
how big their audience is, right?
Yeah, it massive audience, massive narrative, like extreme need to make deep changes in the tokenomics and the structure.
Yeah,
Very difficult to make them, but if you put in the time and the effort, it's there, man. And so those are my
yeah,
two. Like it's a trade-off. Do you want like structure and clean? It works great. Shapeshift or like a Gitcoin would be awesome, right? If you want the mayhem and all the chaotic creativity and the reputation ability, like gotta go with BDAO.
amazing, amazing. Very, very good answer. Very good answer.
Now,
Okay,
if you want to jump to the front of the line and you got a bunch of
yeah,
money, go straight to a Metacartel or Moloch DAO.
of course, they're the
Okay.
OGs.
Yeah.
They're the OGs.
Mm.
Okay, so um, okay, what DAO do you think will be most successful in 5 years' time?
5 years.
Yeah, or what one do you think will still exist and have grown and be going crazy? Like I want something like Nouns DAO to still be going and
Hmm.
still have these crazy auctions in 5 years. I mean, I want that to happen. I don't know.
For the 5 year mark, man, I'm gonna have to come back to like the the protocol DAOs, the protocol DAOs.
Hmm.
Why? Because I'm gonna use the term decision space. Okay. People in DAOs, they want to be like, oh, we have an unlimited decision space. If you want to like start a dog park that's DAO themed, like ask for a grant and we'll give it to you. Okay. The greater the decision space, the more the liability and the more overhead. The tighter the decision space of like we only decide on the interest rate from the protocol, it's
Hmm.
easier to manage, there's more longevity, like there's stability there, and it has to survive because some of these protocols, if they fail, dude, the entire ecosystem
Hmm.
implodes, so they have to
100%.
survive. Yeah.
100%. Shout out MakerDAO.
Yep.
Cool, very cool. Okay, and then last question. This is one that's very specific to this show. So if you had to be CMO or head of growth for a DAO, which one, which one would you go for? Would you go for an easy one or a tough one?
Head of growth, I well, it's a real trick question because uh, do you pick a DAO where even such a position could exist?
Hmm.
Because in many DAOs, it's even impossible given their structure for anyone to have that job doesn't exist or can exist. It's a real strange thing. Um, so with that in mind, I would probably pick one that has extreme um, a big budget, and when I say we should do something, we actually do it. I would
Awesome.
okay. That would I would it'd have to be a community like that, and I would tell you exactly what I would focus on. I would 100 focus on vampire attacks. The vampire attack at the layer zero with the people, like
Hmm.
basically looking, knowing not just the contributor funnel, but like the CRMs are going to become customer resource managers or relationship managers to community relationship managers, right? Knowing what do people hold, what are people holding in the public, communicating and offering some advantage to a segment that's not in your community to come to your community with their resources and providing some advantage. So the DAO vampire attack and leveraging that kind of pattern of tool as an in feed to your contributor funnel, that is the the growth hack nuke that is not happening yet. Oh, I lost your audio. I think you're on mute.
So you
Oh, there you are.
like, okay, cut that. Okay, we start again. So you just jump in and say, hey guys, I've just like tripled the size of our DAO. And they're like, how? You're like, well, I just vampire attacked these three other DAOs. And they're
Yeah.
like, now they're our DAO.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
thanks, I guess. Okay,
Well,
that's
look,
awesome.
listen,
Growth through
everyone wants
vampire
a,
attacks.
what's that?
Growth through vampire attacks. I love it. I
Dude,
love it.
it's it. Safari Club, shout out Safari Club.
Hmm.
They're basically a cohort based onboarding, and it's growth hackers, many of them Web 2 growth hackers, talking like what
Yep.
applies in Web 3 and how do we take in Web 3 back to Web 2. Just join one of their cohorts and listen into the meetings for a couple weeks, and you'll come away with like crazy ideas.
Awesome. Awesome. I need to hit them up. I've read a lot of their articles and
Mm.
I think they're super cool. So yeah, I need to hit them up for sure. And yeah, I mean, I actually have a client who is we're working on a vampire attack strategy, um, which I mean, I think it's going to go pretty well, but if it goes really well, it might cause yeah,
I mean,
some moderate drama, let's say.
there's a negative way to view it. There's also a positive way. Here's the deal.
Hmm.
We want the entire ecosystem to survive and thrive. And so
Yep.
even doing something such as saying, guess what? We modified our governance. Now everyone who holds this other token has governance weight on our governance.
Hmm.
Maybe that's a kind of vampire attack, right? I guess it's a vampire in the sense that you're incentivizing people to take their liquidity, their contribution, their time, and come over and contribute it there. But here's the deal: if you're providing some productive output or some benefit, and you're not saying you don't need to leave where you're at, we're just saying if you want to come in, maybe combined with a DAO to DAO meta governance, like partnerships and stuff. So I do believe in composability over competition, collaboration over competition. But at the end of the day, you have a vision you believe in, you're engineering around. If you can incentivize more people to come in and contribute and participate, then go for it. And people are free agents; they'll do what they want. But framing it in that way, I find real interesting.
Love that. Love that. That was an awesome answer to the final
Cool.
question. A lot of people struggle with that one. Um, so yeah,
Mm-hmm.
thank you so much for coming on. It was really awesome to chat. How can people find you, get in touch with you, join your DAOs?
Ah, I would say Twitter's an easy one. I go by 0xJustice.eth all across the space. My actual Twitter handle is Singularity Hack, and follow on there. And yeah, I write on Mirror and some different places. I'm actually trying to downscale my commitments, trying to do fewer things better, you know. And but ultimately, what I'm interested in is not cat herding, but
Hmm.
architecture in a way, because the ultimate ability here is to design such a system that then when you turn the faucet on, the incentives, right incentives eliminate the need for coordination, and
Hmm.
they eliminate coordination and replace project management with a mechanism design. So that's the stuff I'm super interested in. So you know, so yeah, reach out and ping, and we'll talk or write something together or whatever.
Amazing, amazing. I'm gonna ping you something that I want to write, or I've written, but I need
Cool,
your expert eye on.
cool.
So yeah, thank you so much for
All
coming on.
right.
Take care.
Thank you, James. Thank you. Appreciate it.